Everybody download this game right now. I don't care where you are. Open your Steam account on your phone. You download this game right now. We're all gonna play it.
When you finish work, like the game tells you like, oh, Jill has to make rent. But at the same time, she also like has these random requests where she's like, oh, I really want to buy this like bonsai plant or like this daruma. Yeah. I'm just like, girl, like we're gonna be homeless if you keep indulging yourself in this. I was like, no.
You seem to have gone through some shit, and I don't know what that is. Can we just talk about this? Like, what happened?
Like, I think you texted me something, how are you? And my response was something like, should I die? Or like,
will you truly be happy?
Like, be happy or something like that. And you're like, whoa.
Welcome to the 20 AM podcast, everybody. The show about games and people behind them and everything in between. My name is Arief, your co-host for today, and I have with me the lovely Hoobastank Lovin' Rino. Rino, how are you?
I'm good. Is that going to make sense? Are you going to add in what we were just talking about?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to allude to the fact that right before this we were talking about Hoobastank.
If you're not from like our generation or earlier and you hear the word Hoobastank, I don't think it's a very it doesn't sound like a very nice word, you know?
Yeah, really, I don't even know what it means, to be honest with you. Whoever's listening to the 20 AM podcast right now, drop your favorite Hoobastank song. That isn't the reason in the chat. Rino, how are you? It's lovely to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you too. It's really warm here, but I hear it's even warmer where you are.
It's absolutely killer in Southeast Asia. Like, it's like, I don't know how much I'm paying for electricity this month because it's just been insane. Why is it warm over there? It's like,
it's spring.
I just saw you in like winter clothes like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but I'm me. So like I'm always cold either way. But it is spring. So it feels good. Good vibes. Nice for walks and all that kind of stuff. But I also got into a lot of games in the last couple of weeks despite the weather being good. So
yeah.
I guess we're in for a good episode, I hope.
No, it's actually really cool. I feel like you have been playing a lot, you've been trying a lot, so I'm really excited for this one. But that's super nice. Where do you want to start the podcast episode? Where do you want to start with what games have you been playing, you know?
How about we start with something that just came up fairly recently in the last couple of weeks. So
wait. I'll start this one by saying that, like, I don't know where you're going to intro this game, but there was a game for y'all that are listening to the 20 AM podcast. There's we have a group chat with a couple of games people, and we reference that group chat a lot on this podcast. But there was one day where I think Rino just like capitalized letters, like, everybody download this game right now. Like, I don't care where you are. Open your Steam account on your phone. You download this game right now. We're all gonna play it. And then everybody was like pretty iffy and like whatnot. But I know that you guys ended up playing it. Do you want to walk us through this game, Rino?
Yeah, so the game is Content Warning by Landfall. And I want to like preface that I got excited because one, it's free. It was free for the first 24 hours. And I know we're all friends and we're all Asian, and I know like how to get you guys like, guys, it's free, get it now. And the second is it's co-op, and I really wanted to have like a shared experience with my friends. So I was like, please get it so we can play, and it's free. So let's get down to it. But yeah, Content Warning, it came out on April 1st. It's like a Landfall tradition to always release a game for April Fools.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And or at least it dates back to like the last couple of years. But the game is like Lethal Company, but funnier, even though I know Lethal Company is funny, but it is like that. So you wear these like, what are they called? I think they look like old diving suits. Like kind of like in Samudra.
Yeah.
That real round head with like a little yeah. I don't know what it's called, but it's like an old school diving suit. So you wear one of those, and you're above ground. The goal is to go into I think it's called the underworld, the otherworld, to film videos of like scary stuff. Then you come back up, you upload it onto SpookTube, which is like the in-game YouTube. You can watch the footage, and then the views go up. You get money from ad rev, and then you go to sleep. So you've got 3. I think each round is like split up into 3 days. So for the first 3 days, your goal is to get like 3,000 views, and then if you achieve that, then your next 3 days, the goal is to get like 30,000 views or something like that. And it goes on and on and on.
That's super cool. I mean, it's like, I remember, it's so funny because I hate describing these games to people, where it's like even Lethal Company and like, you know, this slew of like streamer oriented co-op kind of like everybody's just going to have fun in the madness of these games. Like there's other games where you can talk about in the games industry, if you will, that it's like, hey, it's this and this and this, right? These ones are always just like, it's this, but at the end of the day, it's just madness and chaos. You're just gonna have a lot of fun. So I do love this game. But I know you ended up trying it both alone and with friends. Like how was the overall experience? Did you enjoy it? I did not expect that you were to play this game.
So I missed the Lethal Company boat, and I thought this had like a really interesting premise, and honestly the art style was just weird. Like if you look at it, like I was trying to like explain to when we were playing with Jun and Brian like how funny it was, because like your arms are like really long, and then your character faces like you can customize them, but you basically just add like letters and numerals, and you can make like emoji faces and stuff. And then when you go in the underworld, everything is like black and white. So like there's so many different clashing, like there's no consistent art style. It looks like everything was picked out of like the Unity shop or something like that. But at the same time, it's like so funny as well.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like what drew me to it. And I thought like this is gonna be hilarious because you're gonna play with friends and you're gonna like do stuff for the memes and all. So I knew it would be like a good game to play with a good group of people. But I couldn't wait for our crew to get sorted. So I played firstly by myself, as in like I joined like a random team. Like I don't know who they were, but like a big part of it is you need to have like communication. You need to be like talking, and also like if you talk in game, it gets picked up by the recording when you record the video.
Of course, that's awesome.
So yeah, so you can really set it up and be like, hey friends, it's whatever, like and subscribe, like all the typical tropes of like being a content creator. You can put that all in. Because these were like strangers and none of us spoke. And so there was like no coordination, and we just all ended up dying on the ground. But with friends, it was so great. Really, really fun.
Yeah, I flippin' love the coolest thing in like modern games, and it seems so rudimentary, is the inclusion of like mics, like in-game microphone like components, which is I know with I think it was Phasmo, right, where it's like that's heavily dependent on like the microphone and your sound as well. It's just such a cool feature, and I think with not this one but Lethal, I think had proximity chat as well.
Yeah.
So like, and then I know when that started to become an interesting tech thing, like proximity chat started to pop up in other games, like I think some of the Call of Duty games as well. So I just love that aspect of like just using your microphone as another tool for like gaming now that's like, I don't know, I don't feel like that existed from before.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But I think like what really struck me the most with this game is like I've talked about this a lot previously with Chantal, who's making Dark Web Streamer, and then we talk about other like things like Simulacra, where there's this kind of like intersection of like technology, culture, social media, and all these different things wrapped together. And so with content warning, like I just explained, like how you get money and stuff like that, right? But so if you die underground, if you come back up, there's like a hospital bill that you have to pay for to kind of like respawn and like resurrect. But the amount that you pay for the hospital bill is like so little compared to the amount that you can get if your video goes viral. So when we were playing as friends, what we found was like, okay, you get like only one person really needs to survive, because one person needs to bring the CD back. If everyone dies, then like you lose the footage as well. Everyone else can just be like multiply sacrificed, like because you can film monsters and that's fine. If you film a monster like attacking your friend, it's like extra funny, it's like extra hilarious, and then the views go up so much higher. So it's really setting this platform of like, okay, well in that case, since everyone is like dispensable, let's just get people to die. Only one person needs to survive to put the footage in, and the amount of money you make from like everyone's sacrifices is like so much more than like having to pay for them to come back to life, right? So again, it's like this kind of ironic, funny look at like today's society, where it's like, anything for the views, right? Like streamers, do subathons, which basically, are like long streams, which cause suffering, kind of like suffering to them because they're like not sleeping and things like that, because it's all for the views. It's all for, becoming famous and things like that. So I feel like content warning is kind of trying to be like a parody on like streamer culture and all of these kind of games that like are for views and then somewhat at the detriment of the creator.
That's you again. Like, I don't know how you're such a flippin' writer. That sounds like one of the articles that you would like totally shove out to dissect this game. But you're kind of right. It's like, I don't know, those intersections seem so interesting. But like, I love how you were able to kind of uncover that with the group of friends that we were with as well. I can imagine that conversation. I don't know. I just think it'd be super funny to experience.
I think it's like
that we're around.
Yeah, I think like, I mean you used to stream as well, right? So I think you totally get it because like other stuff that comes in, it's like when you start off, you have like no money and all you have is like
Yeah.
a shitty camcorder and then like a busted like torchlight. But once you get that sweet ad rev, you can like buy a mic, you can buy a mic, you
Oh
can
my
buy like
God.
better flash, you can buy lighting, you can buy emotes. It's like
And yet your average viewer count still stays the same. You know what I mean? Like despite the Elgato Stream Deck, your average viewer count is the
yeah.
same. No, but you're right. You're absolutely right. It's like it's so new wave in that era where it's like in that concept where like that kind of those concepts and these kinds of ideas are so much more people are experiencing those. But to have that integrated in this kind of way, it's like that is commentary within itself, right? Like I don't know, those kinds of cycles. I don't know. I just find that fascinating. I did not expect that to be part of this conversation where we were talking about when we were talking about content warning.
What I will tell you is that when you know how like when you play co-op games with your friends, like their personalities really come out. And like since you know exactly who I play with Jern, Rach, and Brian, it was like they're everyone but like to the extreme. So Rach was like filming because she's the streamer, she's the content creator. So we're like, all right, you're in charge of like holding the camera and stuff. And then Jun is like being like the leader, like, all right, you do this, you do that. He's like, and then we like made enough money so he could like buy like an electric zapper thing so we could finally like kind of defend ourselves against the monsters. And then Brian's like trying to be like really proper and like organized. So we're like getting in there and then like Rach is like filming, like there's like a monster, and like I'm obviously the first one to die. Like I get trapped in the ceiling, and Jun is like jumping up trying to like zap the monster, and Brian is standing there trying to be like a documentarian, like, oh hello everyone, like as you can see here, it's just like absolute chaos.
I feel so jealous. I gotta play with you guys so bad. But you're kind of right. Like that epitomizes that group of friends like to the max. You know what I mean? So I just love that this game is bringing out the best and or worst of us. How do you feel about the like the tailwind of this game? Like where do you think it sits now? Like because I know it got that huge spike in the first week of April, and obviously it was because of launch. A lot of people are talking about it on the internet. I mean, it seemed like my Twitter feed was just completely taken over. But a lot of these games, I feel like they ebb and flow. Like what do you, like is this? I know this is actually you played Phasmo with a couple folks. I know you do play a couple other like co-op games. Like where does this game kind of stand in that kind of will it stay? Will it go? Like what are your thoughts on the longevity of this one?
I think it's only here for like a good time, not a long time. And I feel, I mean, I don't want to like misspeak out of turn or anything because I obviously don't know anything about how it was developed, but I do feel like the developers knew that because it's not built for longevity in the same way that Phasmo has like a bit of storyline and you can unlock different maps, and the maps are all very distinct and different, and then like your level goes up and all these kind of things. With content warning, it's like the underworld that you get is just like randomized each time. And also I previously mentioned earlier, like it's really hard to fight against the monsters. There's like you really have nothing. Like once you get captured or something, like you're basically dead. And so like that part is a little bit frustrating, but and in a way that you can't level up to get better at that. There's like one or two items that you can use to fight, like I mentioned, but like the thing we bought was like useless. So I don't think it's built for that kind of like, all right, we gotta like really like push them back and defend or anything like that. I think it's really just here like let's die as like as quickly and as funny as possible,
Yeah.
which is like great for like a few rounds, like really good with friends, but after a while it will probably get old. So I don't see this being played a lot. Although I guess if you are like a streamer and you're collaborating, there's always going to be some freshness when you've got like people's personalities coming out and things like that. So I think it's a good streamer game. I don't think it's like a Phasmo game if that makes sense.
That's super interesting. Yeah. No, absolutely. That's because that's where I always get nervous about these ones. Like they have such a like huge spike and everybody's talking about them. But for me, it's like I have 3 of these types of games in this like general vertical sitting in my Steam, and I haven't opened any of them, right? Where it's like I want to play with friends, I want to get that crew together, but now it's just a little bit awkward. It's like I don't know if I should go back to that game that's like from 6 months ago. You know what I mean? And it's like boom, which is kind of like a sad cyclical, like I guess also commentary on like where we are with games, right? Where even though these games are magnificent and really fun, like how many people end up sticking through with them, and if it's not in the hype cycle, will people actually find other people to play with within their friend groups to do it? But I always go back to the fact where it's like we should kind of treat these as like board game nights, where it's like when I go to board game nights with my friends, it's like it doesn't really matter like if it's a new game or an old game, but like we'll make sure to sit down and play board games. So I feel like I need to conceptually do that with my games group a little bit more, where it's like we don't need to play the new season of Apex. You know what I mean? Like put that on hold for a bit, but let's go back to some of these things where we can cycle through a couple of games and we all have it, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, I was gonna like literally as you were saying that, I was actually thinking in my head like maybe it's kind of like a I don't know like Cards Against Humanity where like it's really funny for the first like 2 rounds or 3 rounds and afterwards like all right it's enough and then it's really more like a party game. It's not something you're gonna go into on your own or you and a friend try and competitively like get better at it.
Yeah.
It's more like a fun party game.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, and then since we've gone on one end, we're talking about a really current game. Let's go to a game that was published like 8 years ago.
Well, a classic to some.
Classic.
I know. Okay, so the way that I want to start this part of the episode, right, is that there's a game that I'll just tell my story about this particular game, and it's a game that I know you just recently finished, right? But I was at Gamescom Asia 2 years ago, right? And we were all sitting at a beautiful bar in Singapore, and it was all games industry people. I think you had so many devs there in this like circular table, and it just felt such good energy because it was towards the end of the conference. And then we were just making small talk, and all of us have always been talking about games and stuff. And then somebody brings up, it's like, oh yeah, like Arief, this like because I was like, oh, this bar and this whole concept reminds me of Coffee Talk, and it's like, oh yeah, but you mean like Valhalla, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like Assassin's Creed Valhalla? What the hell are you guys talking about? You losers! Like I'm talking about like because Sarah, who was there, is like from Toge. It's obviously like wanted to reference Coffee Talk, their game, and then they're like, "All right, you've never played Valhalla? I'm like, the hell are you talking about?" The entire group proceeded to make fun of me for the next like hour, and then on top of that, Brian, who published Valhalla and worked with the development team, came to that bar, and they all told Brian that story, and I was like, Arief hasn't played your game. Like he's such a big dummy. So that like proceeded to haunt me, where it became a joke for the next couple of days, and obviously we're going to be talking about Valhalla, one of the best games of all time. But I ended up playing that game, and I fell in love with it. And God bless Brian for giving me a copy for that one. But this is a very important game in my life that I've like the most important game that I've recently played, I would say. And I'm just so excited because I know you started your Valhalla journey quite a couple of months ago, but I believe you are done now. So Rino, tell me about Valhalla.
I just want to interject with your bar story because that impacted me too. That was the night that Brian sent me a message at like 1 a.m. I think he was slightly drunk, and it was like, have you never heard of Valhalla or have you never played Valhalla? And I was like, no. And then I got my code as well, and it was really, really like props to Brian for giving me the Steam key, but it was really like a come on, like you say you play games, like you've not played my game, and it's like here, just take it, kind of
take my game, take my critically acclaimed cult classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, just the last one is because I didn't know, and I'm part of maybe the majority, like the dumb majority of like casual gamers on that particular genre side of things. But like when Coffee Talk came out, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But I didn't realize that Coffee Talk was actually it's almost as if like it's a spiritual successor to Valhalla, where it's like it's all of Valhalla in concept, but just like sprung around in a different way. Where when I thought a lot of those mechanics, a lot of those concepts were like purely original there. So I'm really glad I went back and played this one. So I guess for anybody who's listening to this podcast, if you played Coffee Talk but you haven't played Valhalla, consider checking like Valhalla out for sure. Yeah. But Rino, tell me all about your experience with Valhalla. I want to know because I know we shared a similar moment that I want to like dive into.
I don't know, where should we start? I guess for like the folks who don't know what Valhalla is, right? It's I guess the slogan is what cyberpunk bartender action, right? So it's like a visual novel where you meet characters at a bar. You play the role as Jill, who's a bartender. You mix drinks. You talk to the characters and get them to open up and that sort of thing. But like it's so interesting, right? Even me just hearing myself saying that in 2024, it's like there's so many of them. But this is one of the originals, right? From way back then. The whole concept of like a talking simulator of just like making drinks. There's like, not to say there's no purpose, but like it's like the sum of the game is the entire experience, not just like the end, like what happens at the end. That's like inconsequential, right? And then I don't know where do we start? Like,
well, I mean, I don't know if there's point talking about the story. Maybe we could get the story just like a little bit out of the way as a primer, right? But like you mentioned, Valhalla is all about the story, so I don't think we should. I'm happy to dive into it and like we can dig into the pockets. But I guess for those that are kind of interested in it, it's like you play as Jill, and Jill is broke as hell, and Jill is going through some shit. And the whole point, I think the way that I describe it to my friends is like you learn so much about Jill, who is the character you're playing, but also the people around you who you're serving drinks to. And it's the epitome of like bartending culture, where like it's a social endeavor, but you share stories and you learn so much about other people while also learning about yourself through this process. And you go through moments that are incredibly deep and vulnerable and meaningful and introspective, and then you go through moments that are just absolutely batshit crazy and super dumb and just like, of course that kind of thing would only happen in a bar, right? And so I think like my question to you, Reno, and obviously we can weave story and we can weave mechanics into this whole conversation because I want to have a full conversation about Va11 Hall-A, is like, how did you feel playing the game? Like, what are your overall feelings towards the Va11 experience?
It was it was very cozy, even during the heavier parts of the game. I definitely had a couple of favorite characters. The end, again, like without jumping into spoiler territory or anything like that, the end was not like a grand finale, which in a way I really liked because it just felt like this game is a section of someone's life. And it made me feel like now that the game is over, the characters will continue on. Whereas, like with other like more action adventure oriented games, it's like this is the hero's quest. You start here, you end here, the world is saved. But this is really like this is Jill's story, this is everyone else's story in the game, and they'll continue to keep, I don't know, making drinks, going to the bar, after we've ended. And I kind of like that. It really was like a window into someone's life, even though it had the cyberpunk theme, which makes it very futuristic and has all these other like, I guess like commentary about like society and capitalism today and how that gets projected into the future. But it's still very relatable anyway. And I felt good. I felt good at the end. Like it was a good closure and kind of just like a good like time.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know, not volatile, not making me stressed out at any point, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that like, I think I always describe it to my friends and industry people when I talk about this game, but I think I just played it at the right time in my life where when I played that game, and I granted it was only like 2 years ago, right? But I was in the process of moving out and like going through just some personal changes as well, like and a lot of personal change within that year. And I feel like a lot of the notes that came by via the story of what Va11 was trying to say is like how somebody is reconciling with their current life and the traumas that they have in the past and the like baggage they have in the past while trying to craft something forward and making new friends and like trying to figure out what their whole like mid-20s like is gonna be like the rest of their lives after that point, right? So I just really resonated with it a lot. But I also think there's so much beauty in what you said where it's like it does feel, it's cyberpunk and it's neon and it's like it is just cozy at the end of the day, but like the mechanic is just so beautiful to me where I love cocktail culture, right? Like I love like bar culture, and the beautiful thing is like when you go to a bar and just like, hey, just like when the bartender is like, what do you want? Like, what do you feel like, right? Like, what do you enjoy? And then they cook up something for you. And it's either a cocktail you'll either love or like a cocktail you're a bit iffy on. But rarely is it like bad. But I love that that's weaved in the gameplay where there are some of the prompts, like the whole game of Va11 is like, they'll say, hey, I want this like something fruity with a little bit of like, I don't know, tartness here. Can you find something? And you'll look through your journal and you'll make the book. But that process to me felt so almost like not second nature, but it just felt so normal. And I just love that was how you get through the next part of the story. And like, yes, I messed up some of the drinks, but oh my god, like the melding of gameplay and story in this was so much more interesting than other visual novels for me because like I don't know, it just felt a bit more motivating for me to do that one act, even though that one act and that one game, if you will, had different variations.
I think, yeah, I really like how seamless it was when it would go from story to drink making to story. And the drink making wasn't like overly complicated. And as someone who, I mean, I've played other drink making games before Va11, like I guess more newer ones. And then I go back to Va11 and I'm like, this is like back to basics, but in the best way possible. And it's like now I understand why I didn't like all the other drink making games I played. So with Va11, it was like, it's really simple. There's only like 5 or 6 different ingredients. If you can make pressing one button to mix it is the same as blending it. It's just like a difference in time, that sort of thing. And then you can also double make drinks stronger because like they specifically say like, oh, this particular substance is what makes it alcoholic. So if you want them to get super drunk, you just keep adding it. So I would do that for like the characters I really liked. But one thing I found really funny was I actually ended up on one of the trips when Brian came to Japan. I actually met with some of the devs from Sukeban Games who made the game. And I was telling them like, man, I thought that I would get double the money if I made a double drink, but that wasn't the case. That's just like me giving like a complimentary drink. And the dev looked at me and was like, man, the number of people who did that, like, because it's so much easier to mess up if you try and double it, because it's like 6 or 4 of these things. So you're like, okay, I got to do 12 of 4 of these things instead. And if you don't count, like sometimes you might miss and then you just mess up the drink. I kept doing that because I kept thinking like, well, if I work harder, I get more money. Like, no.
That's too good. That's too good. What other like I guess like what other moments kind of stood out, right? Because like that's a funny story and like totally. But I think I didn't understand the game the first like couple of hours, and then once you understand how the mechanics work and how you make money at the end of the day and like how you navigate those relationships, it was so beautiful. But what other moments stood out for you in your Valhalla experience?
Oh no, this one is not a specific moment, but just something I remember being like, so the game Valhalla has like amazing soundtrack, right? I know we all love it. We all have our favorite particular tracks from the game. The original artist's name is Garode, I think is how you pronounce it. And my favorite track is Drive Me Wild, which is like a 70s flash dance, like really fun, like I always open the bar with that song because it gets me pumped. And then I also have it on repeat at a couple of sections. And then this one time, this character was giving me the character was having a really heartfelt moment that, talked about like really, really heavy topics. And Drive Me Wild was playing and I was like, this is really weird. Like, is this like supposed to be a joke? Is this supposed to be like a parody? Is there like so? And then I was like, oh wait, I'm in control of the music. So I need to change it to make it a bit more somber so that I can get into what he's trying to say. So I switched it. I was like, okay, now that's better.
Yeah.
Because before it's like I just thought the game had set the music. I forgot that like I was in control.
Yeah, and I love it. And it's like that's again, this is why this is like such a flippin' great game, right? The agency on your side, you have so much agency on your side. So it's like you choose the music, you get to choose the drinks. You feel like I don't know, it's immersive in a way, even though it's like very static and it's a visual presentation. So yeah, but like I obviously it's like beat a dead horse with this one. Like everybody who speaks about Valhalla talks about the soundtrack, but oh my god, like the mood and the like ambiance and the energy it creates, even to me it's almost nostalgic, where it's like I'll hear some of the synths that were used and like I immediately know it's that's Valhalla, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I know where I am in the game and I know like the characters I'm looking at, the like look of the bar, and like it's just there's something so magical to this game where I think it's a sum of its parts, where it's not just the music, it's not just the aesthetics, not just the gameplay, but this is truly one of those instances where like everything is working in full synergy that just made me completely like immersed. Like I remember I would play this game every night before bed and I would be like lost in it, and like I can't tell you how many times that happens when you're playing games, like very few and far between. So I just, yeah, you're right.
The other thing that stood out for me is so you make money and then you get tips and bonuses and things like that. And then like every now and then, like when you finish work, like the game tells you like, oh, Jill has to make rent. And then the rent gets like increasingly more expensive. But at the same time, she also like has these random requests where she's like, oh, I really want to buy this like, I don't know, bonsai plant or like this daruma. Yeah. And so the first time I made rent pretty easily, but then the second time I think the rent was like 10K. And then like Jill kept asking for these things. I'm just like, girl, like we're gonna be homeless if you keep indulging yourself in this. I was like, no. And we just made it in time. Like I think I had like 11K or like 10.5 or something. But I don't know what happens if you don't make rent.
I don't know. I don't know.
Game ends.
I think I can't remember if it was like there was 1 month I didn't make rent. I think you had to start over or something like that. I can't remember. Like it's been a bit of a while, but yeah, it's like the epitome of like working class people, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like and rent is expensive, but you got to treat yourself. You got to be sane. You got to be like. So it's I know it's funny, but it's like totally. Like I know everybody's been through those kind of like, or I'd say hopefully most people have gone through those kinds of life experiences. But I get it. Like I understand how that feels completely. Yeah. That's an awesome one. I mean, like okay, well, I'll say one moment of mine, and I'll share maybe 2 stories really quickly as well. Well, like where one of them was I know we're talking about Brian a lot, and again, major love to Brian from Eastbred, because they published the game and they're doing amazing work, but he's a dear friend. But I remember I was at a bar here in KL, and it reminded me so much of Valhalla, because I swear to God, everything was super clean, super aesthetic, and like the drinks that they were serving were really good drinks. And then at some point, the music started to play, and I was like, am I in Valhalla right now? I think I texted the group
Oh
chat or
my
something, and I'm like,
God.
oh my God, is this like, am I in the game? Like, is this a joke? Like, are you guys, is this a practical joke on me that
Yeah.
you all were like, because it's not even a game bar or whatever. It's like Asia's one of
Yeah.
Asia's top 50 bars here.
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh my God, it was so beautiful. But again, it goes back to the ambiance of like, totally somebody on staff like slipped that in the playlist because they knew it was like Valhalla-esque, you know?
Mhm.
If not like from Valhalla, I can remember. But then my other moment, just talking about Brian, is I tweeted about this, and I bring this up as well, where I love it when developers include people, you know, cameos or, you know, reference people that are really important. And sometimes you might get names that are thrown in, and then sometimes, you know, it might be scenarios where, I know this is a bit of a dicey one, but with Sea of Stars, they included Gerard the completionist, and then that had a whole drama thing beyond it. But you know, the concept is like, you have people that are very important to you in your games, right?
Mhm.
There is a moment where Brian from Eastford Games shows up in
Cheers.
Valhalla, and I jump out of bed, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Brian. Like, oh my God, this is literally him. You know what I mean? And I like, I just remember
read it
that
in
being
his
like
voice.
such a yes.
I read all the dialogue in his voice.
So I just love that was a moment that like stuck out for me because it broke the barrier of like, this is a game, this is an immersion experience, but it's like, these are people that are like integrating real life into their art, but literally real people in their art.
I think when the like because of our relationship with Brian, and you know the game has been around for a while, I think we know that, you know, it's a small team, it's an indie game, but when the credits rolled, it like just like done. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like these people I can count on like one hand or two hands. They made this, and then again, it's just like typical me fall at the altar, feeling like wow, like such greatness made by such a small crew of people. Amazing, really well done.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't speak more highly of, again, I know a lot of the stories are fun and funny and jokey, but like, I'm serious when I say like Valhalla is such an important game for me, where I don't want to dive too much into it, but like, if anybody who's listening to this haven't played it, like do consider checking it out. It's often on sale as well. But I think there's a reason why it's a cult classic, and there's a reason why the community is flourishing perpetually. And I think every year, if I'm not mistaken, they do a replay, and they like, I think there was a thing where like they play along the days
Oh
each
yeah, because it's in
day,
December.
yeah, with
Yeah.
alongside like the game, so you
Yeah.
kind of like experiences the community together. So I'd love to do that in one of these years, right? But like, I don't even know how to like articulate this, but like, there's so much magic to Valhalla, and there's so much fun and quirkiness, but also just riveting design and the immersion. But oh my God, like some of the stories that the characters go through, it's like, I don't know. It's just like, it gets so emotional for me, where there's some stuff that happens in these games, and some of the stuff that happens to the characters and you're listening to these stories are whimsical and they're really funny and they're absurd. But then others are like really deep reflection on just people and their lives and how they navigate. I don't know, like how one character is currently navigating their life versus another character, maybe completely different. But it's like the full spectrum of the human condition, if you will, right? It's like the full spectrum of even your friends. So I just I can't speak more highly about what this game tries to say in the way that it says it, and I just respect. Yeah, you're right. Like, I just respect the development team so much. I like freak out about it sometimes.
Yeah. I think like one of my last few thoughts on this is just like I mean, like all game dev is hard. Not trying to say that one is harder than the other, but I think for visual novels, like it really has to be like the perfect storm of everything. And Valhalla had that. It had characters that are interesting enough that you don't mind just sitting there reading hours at a time. You've got this incredible music that makes it really comfortable. You've got the drink making gameplay that kind of like breaks up the reading a bit. It's also a bit fun. You know, all the text descriptions for the drinks are fun as well. And it's just like it has such good pacing and rhythm and everything. Like you just feel really comfortable sitting with it, I feel. And you know, a lot of the complaints people have about visual novels being too wordy or too this or too that, like I feel like Valhalla is just like, it's like that perfect, like that character like kind of growth chart, and it just like hits all the different like skills, like +5 +5 +5, just in like the most perfect setting. So yeah, really really love the game.
Yeah, major love. I love this game so much. I'm so glad you finished it.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, maybe we'll do a December replay like at the same time. I wonder what kind of endings we'll get, because because there's different endings, right? And it'll be interesting to see like which one we all get.
Oh, I want to play this game right now. I feel so nostalgic for it. Oh my God. I love this conversation. Well, I know you played another seemingly important game and introspective game. Rita, do you wanna talk about that one?
I've been so stressed because of this game, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but like when I come across like media, whether it's like film or books or games that really impact me in a big way, I just get depressed for like a couple of days, and then I'm fine. But right now, I'm just like still in that. But yeah, I had a really great time playing Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. It's by Deconstruct Team, based out in Spain, but it's been published by Devolver. Came out last year, and I know we all saw it and we all kind of like made a mental note about it. But in full, since this is the podcast and like I want to be like completely transparent with everyone, I this game only resurfaced in my consciousness this year because the devs, I don't know if it's a joke or if it was serious, but they released like a dildo belonging to like one of the characters in the game, and it was so like over the top wild when I saw it on Twitter, and it was originally retweeted or quote retweeted by Tessa from the gamer, and so I was like, I need to talk, but we're not gonna do this publicly because not everything needs to be public. So I went into her DMs and I was like, hey, what was that about? And then this was like a month ago. We had a good laugh about that. And then last week, I was in the Switch eShop looking for games that in the sale section. And then this game came up. And I was like, oh, it's on discount. Oh, it looks interesting. Oh, that character looks familiar. I was like, it's from that.
It's dildo game?
It's a dildo game. So I texted Tessa. I was like, hey, I bought the dildo game. And she was like, oh, God, like, what have we like? So it's like summarize this game too. But she's like, it's really good. So. Yeah. So yeah, that's the background to the game.
Yeah, but tell me about it. I mean, like one, major love to Tessa, I love Tessa, and like they're the best. And they always
that's all you have to say.
No, I just think Tessa has always like great taste. It's like the takes that Tessa has like in every conversation I've had. It's like just so good. But like this game is an interesting like this game is interesting because again I was telling you like this whole witch genre, it's just like this like mystical kind of like magical realism like I don't know genre. Like a lot of games are popping out in it, and I remember this one I was like, which game was this again? Was this the Devolver? Was this the Chucklefish one? And then like I was the Devolver one, and then I just remember seeing this either at a showcase or it was like a just massively retweeted on Twitter. So I know the game by name, but I actually don't know too much about it, Reno. So like what is this game at the end of the day? And is it one of those that you can like describe, or is it more of like just an experience that you just have to go through?
It's it has actually a lot of parallels with Valhalla. So the game is similar to Valhalla. It like the entire game is set in like one space. So you play as this witch. Her name is Fortuna, and when you come into the game, she's just gone under I think 180 years of like eternal banishment, and you don't know why just yet. But basically, she's been alone in this like house thing on like an asteroid for 180 years, and she's like, I can't take this any longer. My mentor taught me this forbidden spell. I'm just going to utter it and see what happens. And then she does that, and then a behemoth appears. His name is Abramar, the owner of the dildo. And so he appears, and he's like, he kind of like the anti-genie kind of approach, where it's like he can help her get whatever she wants, but like at a cost kind of thing. And so as it unfolds, you realize like you're in this universe where everyone is like a witch, and you all live kind of like amongst the stars. You are all immortal. Each witch has like their own sort of like specialty. So Fortuna is like an oracle, so she uses like tarot cards, tarot readings, and then you meet other witches who have like specialized in like botany or like warrior witches, things like that. But basically, you just follow her path to how she gets out of banishment, basically, like what happens after that. And then as you go through as you play the game moving forward, there's also like flashbacks to her time where she used to be human, and then you realize like, oh, some witches used to be human and then they ascended to become witches. Some witches are, different species or from different planets and things like that. But the core gameplay is very similar to Valhalla in that like a lot of it is like talk simulator, getting to know characters, meeting them, understanding their stories, and the other side is reading their fortunes with the cards. So where she used to be a tarot reading witch, but now with the help of the behemoth, she now makes her own cards. So in the game, you can make your own cards just like by combining the different levels of elements. So there's like the wind, earth, water, fire combination. So you make your cards, and then when you do the readings for people, you draw the cards, and then you can choose 3 or 4 different options of like what you think the readings are. So it's like, yeah, it's like kind of balanced in the same way how it is, where that's like talking and drinks is like talking and tarot reading.
That's awesome. Like, and I think it's like also related to that, the visual aesthetic seems to be something that struck out to me so much as well. But I mean, but honestly, like all that aside, like all the I'm sure people can look up the game, the gameplay, and like the visuals and whatnot. But like, what is the magic of this game? You know, it's like you seem to. I'll be super real, and I'll be real with the 20 AM podcast. You seem to have been gone through some shit. And I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know if that's positive, that's negative. But in the past like 48 hours, like I don't really know how to interact with you, and because I don't know what subject matter you've just experienced with this game. But can we just talk about this? Like, what happened?
I guess for context, like maybe the audience needs to know. Like, I think you texted me something, "How are you?" And my response was something like, you know, like, "Should I die?" Or like,
Will
"What
you
is the meaning
truly
of
be
life?
happy?
Like, should I be happy?" Or something like that. And you're like, "Whoa." I just feel like it hits so many themes that are relevant to me and probably like also very universally relatable. So, she's gone through some shit, Fortuna. Like 180 years of banishment is like not an easy feat. And I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but like it was like mentally and physically just so demanding. And she talks a lot about that. And then you meet her friends, and you know, everyone is happy, and it's all like a bit of like girl squad, like a bit of like, you know, Barbie and stuff. But then there's like some dialogue options where she says something like, "Why didn't you come and save me?" Or like, you know, why did you let this happen? You know, there's like not everyone is like perfect, even though the game sets out this like, oh, we're all best friends, but then there's always like another option that it's kind of like a challenge to the norm of how you might actually be feeling. It's like, oh, I'm glad that you're here as my friend, but like you were not there for me like when all this shit went down, right? And I think without going into spoilers, like there's a turning point where she really takes control of her agency, and she's no longer just like a fortune teller. Now she's able to sort of take things into her own hands. And then it's just such a reminder, I think, of like how like we can like both on one hand it's like, yeah, we can do that as well. Like we are the masters of our own, you know, fortunes. Like what I'm saying is in real life, although some people might believe that, you know, everything is like fate and your decisions are futile and like there's already like a predetermined path. So it challenges like that kind of mindset of like, should we be ambitious and strive for what we want, or should we just like accept the hand that we're dealt with? So I feel like those things were like very, very heavy themes as well. And then the gameplay, as I mentioned, was like the first half. Like later on, like it kind of switches to more of like a political sim management game, which like I think took a lot of people by surprise. And if you read like reviews and stuff, not everyone really loved it, because I think most people got into it for like a cozy experience, and suddenly this turned into a bit more managerial. But I think it was really good for the way the plot was going. I thought that was really great. I don't know how I feel. Like I feel really mixed inside with this game. I think precisely just because like it just hit me in all these different directions. And I guess maybe for where I am in my own personal life right now, it's like really relevant. But yeah, it's just such a great game.
What do you mean by like mix? As in like there are, because like you said, there are parts of the game that you did enjoy and maybe parts that like maybe not so much, right? But what is it about that is giving conflict? Like I guess that's what I'm not fully.
I don't think I'm mixed in that like there's some stuff I don't like. Although obviously it's not the perfect game, and I might get into some of the things that I was a bit few. I think mixed as in like it challenged what I'm doing with my life right now. And that's why I'm like sending you these existential questions, because like the game really made me think like, is the way that I'm living my life like okay? And that's so weird. Like I can just imagine like if I call my mom right now, I'm like, "Hey mom, I played this game over the weekend and like it's really like changing like how I want to live my life." Like it would just be like completely insane, right? But I think that's just the insane power of video games these days. Like the way that developers have an idea, the way they present it, and then you take it in, and it really hits you.
Yeah. But just think on that note, like I think most people here that listen to this podcast have had one of those experiences with the games, right? Where like there is the reason why most of us are in games, or the reason why most of us play games, is because we probably had that one game that have fundamentally changed us. And whether that be like Halo 3, Halo 2 multiplayer, like got all my friends together, and it just like which fundamentally made me understand how to navigate friendships growing up, right? Or like I mentioned Valhalla. It's like Valhalla really made me be a lot more introspective with the people that like how I communicate with people and the people around me and the people that are important to me, right? And I know this is such a stupid one, but like with Kingdom Hearts especially, like I know that one is such a happy-go-lucky, like your friends are your power kind of a scenario. But like I'm a better person because of that like series and that piece of work. But you're right, it like I love it when because you know we think about these games a lot, I guess, like even after the fact, and like we bring it to our personal lives. But you're kind of nailing it. You know? It's like I don't. It's weird, but also kind of not weird. Where sometimes you'd be like, "Hey, I just watched this movie, and like I just need like." There's a reason why I texted you, kind of a scenario. So I love that this game kind of impacted you that way. But I guess like are things okay? Are you okay?
Like, I want to share like one bit, and I will mask it a little bit so that it's not a spoiler for anybody.
Okay.
But basically, like we're like all the characters are witches, and also funnily enough, all the characters are women except the behemoth, who says he identifies as a guy. But so they're all witches. They all do spells, right? And so you're sitting with your mentor, and your mentor. You ask your mentor, like what's happening, how you feeling, and so the mentor feels a lot of regret that you've been banished for 180 years and like all this time has been lost and all of that. And then the mentor says like, I regret that we didn't get to spend more time together when you were around. Can you do a spell that like readjusts our past to give us more time together? And so you do it, and then instantly you go like, oh, remember that time we went to the beach and we did this and that? And your mentor's like, yeah, it was great. And then they just start vibing off this fabricated past. And then it made me think like, oh, like, I wish I could do that as well, like with a lot of my friends or people that, maybe are no longer in my life for various reasons. Like, I wish I spent more time with them, and maybe like that time is gone and it'll never come back. But this spell kind of like gave them this moment, but at the same time you're sad because it's not really real, so it's such a weird concept that you can only insert in this setting where it's like witches who have spells and things like that, but it really taps into the theme of like regret and like memories and like time with friends and family and things like that. It's like, wow, like this is that really hit with me.
No, that's really powerful. And like you said, it's like it's funny how sometimes the medium of games or the medium of the genre even can say so much more about real life than like a real life context or something that's trying to mimic day to day or real life, right? So I think that's, again, like we've talked a lot about games today that like are all kind of all over the place, but each of them kind of can say so much with what the tools that they're given. But I just love how you articulated that, where it's like you can really only do that, and like it really makes you reflect on your life, but in this way that is like clearly nothing, like you cannot do that in real life. But I think that's like the power of good art, and it's not even about games, it's not even about genres, it's just like that's good art, right? So I'm sure the developers, like, I don't know, flowers are due there. What else about this game has been not bogging you per se, but it's like I just feel like it's one of those games where it seems like there's a lot on your mind, right? With this one. And I know this isn't our traditional like games review or whatever, but the whole point of the podcast and the whole point of like us talking about games is this is really interesting, important conversation. What else about it, Rina?
I think considering we play a lot of games, and even though we're not in game dev, like sometimes like you sit there and you want to wonder like on the back end, how does that work, right? So with visual novels, it's very much like sort of like a decision tree branch. It's like player says yes, you go this way, player says no, you go this way, kind of, and then you end up at the ending you want. And I think for games like, I don't know, like a Story of Seasons, it's like, okay, this character likes carrots, so you just give a carrot every day, and then the heart goes up and up and up, right? And then your desired ending with this character is, you get to marry and things like that. But with Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, I don't really understand because it feels really complex. Like maybe it's simplified, but the dialogue and the way that the story is structured, sometimes maybe certain answers just lead to the same way. Maybe there's only very few endings. But what the ending I got was not perfect. And when I was doing reviews on forums, a lot of people were actually a bit dissatisfied with the ending and with the endings they got. And I think that is because it's not clear what everybody wants, just like real life in that sense. And it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to get the utopian ending where everyone is happy. And that's just the reality of the situation. Like there's a lot of sacrifices that need to be made in the game. Sometimes you think this is what they want, and that's not actually what they want. And then because of the way that the cards are drawn, you can make the cards, and if you really dive into that part of the game aspect, you can sort of make the right cards that you want. But ultimately, because it's all pulled out randomly, it's also there's an element of chance to it. So you don't know which card you're going to get, and you are also then presented with different types of readings. So it's really cool. I think that even if it might not be that complex on the back end, like to the player, it's just not very clear what the ending might be. So I understand the frustration for some people, but for me, it was like, well, this is just kind of how it falls, right? You don't always get the happy ending.
Interesting.
I feel like I'm going to therapy here.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, how did that make you feel?
I just scribbles it out. Do you have any closing thoughts about Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood?
I don't think it's a game for everybody, but if you can open your mind to it, I think it's a real journey. And it's, again, I tweeted about this yesterday. It's what really reminded me why I like visual novels. I think a really good visual novel is like the best solo play experience. Like it's great to chat with you after. It was amazing. Shout out to Tessa, who I was just like texting updates every now and then because it's so great to like kind of bond with someone who's had that experience. But ultimately, it is a solo one-person journey. And when you come to the end, and then you resurface, and you're like, wow, like what a trip, what an adventure. But it was just you. You were the only one there. So like my experience is mine to have alone, and you will have yours if you play it. And we can talk about it, but like it's just something that kind of just sits in here, and I love that.
No, that's so beautiful, and I do really want to try this one. And like I think I texted you. It's like, well, it's like after your notes that you shared with me before the podcast, I was like, it's added to the backlog. I know the backlog is like 600 games long at this point, but like it definitely is. But like this conversation just reminds me, and I say this all the time on the podcast, but it's like just play good games, right? And like look for developers who are making meaningful experiences. They might not be at the top of the charts, they might not be celebrated as like top 100 games or whatever, right? And like they might not be in AAA, they may be in AAA, but like just find great experiences, be open to them, right? Because I'm just like thinking about, this experience reminded me a lot about like, Gone Home for me, which is like, again, I've talked about this so much, but that's such a meaningful experience that is very simple in mechanics, maybe not a visual novel, but like that says so much and it like means so much to me. And I try to get other people to play it, but it's like this weird one where I want to talk to people about it, but I also kind of don't want to talk to people about it because it's so personal. Or like Florence is like another one of those where it's like, just play that game and be completely immersed. But Cosmic Wheel just seems like one of those ones where like, it seems like a very similar within that realm and meaningful and maybe conflicting or whatever have you. But wow, I just love that this medium people can create games like that within the games medium.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope they make it into like a TV show. Every time I have a good game and I want to share with my friends who don't play games, I'm like, man, I hope they make it into a TV show because like I don't know how else I can get it to them. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are all my thoughts. I think I'm all spent.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for listening to the 20M podcast, aka therapy session for Rino on a Saturday morning for us. No, but like, but again, like I think just to close the episode and to kind of like sum it up a lot, right? It's like, again, the breadth of stuff that we play and the breadth of stuff that we cover. It's such a maybe a breath of fresh air to play something when it just like completely takes you and completely immerses you on that side. And it seems like this game did. And sit with those thoughts, whatever those thoughts may be, Reno. But like, wow, I can't believe I'm just really excited to play more games like that and also revisit some of the games that we talked about today. God, like only like, of course, we started a games podcast to do this, of course.
Yep, exactly. Well, thanks everyone for indulging me in that last bit, and also hope you enjoyed the stuff about content warning and about Valhalla. Catch you all soon. Bye.